Welcome to the Grounding and Growing Leadership Podcast powered by Align. This is episode number 7. Did you set an intention for this year? Did you perhaps have a word that you wanted to focus on? Have you been focusing on it? When we set those intentions, when we do have a focus, it helps to ground us and to grow as a leader. Do you want to know what our intentions are? Make sure to listen this week. You might be surprised. Welcome to the Grounding and Growing Leadership Podcast, where everyone is a leader and leadership starts with you.
I'm Tara.
And I'm Pamela. Thank you for listening and inviting us along on your leadership journey. It is really hard to define something if we don't have language for it. And I love that being able to have conversations helps to bring out language that we didn't even know we were missing and needed to have. And I love being here with my friend and colleague, Tara, because she helps me to bring language to my life in a way that helps me grow and is strengths-based and has allowed a thriving in my life because I have someone who can speak language for me when I can't find it for myself. So Tara, I love being able to be here doing another podcast with you today.
I am feeling equally excited about it. And I would say the same. One of the things that Pamela has done for me over many years and continues is to help me pause and really reflect on what am I feeling. And that's been a journey for me. I'm not someone who is in great touch with my feelings. I'm an Enneagram 7. We like to run from our feelings instead of stopping and facing them and identifying them and dealing with them. And Pamela has helped me do that over the years. And so I'm so grateful. And this podcast is an opportunity for us to continue to grow together.
Yeah.
And as Pamela mentioned, it's the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And neither of us are big New Year's resolutions people.
No.
But we do both believe in being intentional. And so we have words for the year, which could also be intentions, an area to focus. So Pam, what is your word for this year?
Yes, I was so surprised at the word that came to me for this year in a way that felt a little indulgent, which is not typically the intention of my year. So we're also here in this leadership podcast because part of what Tara is brilliant at is being able to help coach us through what are our Clifton strengths. And so I've taken those assessments and I have my top 10. And the things that are in my top 10 are very active. They are very deliberate. They are very much about connecting. There's an action plan with every single one of them. And surprising, my word for the year is relax. And you're laughing at me.
I'm not. I'm laughing with you.
Oh, are you? Okay, she's laughing with me. Okay. Perhaps the audience is laughing. Those that know me definitely might be giving that a chuckle. When you know me, you do know that activator is very close up to the top of my list. And when it is ready to do something, the helicopter has left the building. I need no runway whatsoever. Don't even tease me with the project because it is already gone. And I've worked with Tara before, and she has been like a day or two away from talking to me about something. And in my mind, I've already planned 20 ways that it's done. I've seen the end of the project. I've worked my way backwards, and I'm already 10 steps into it. And she might start to adjust and change those things, or I might start sending her. I'm not even saying might. I will send her 20 emails, the next steps. And
by the way, I have activator too, so it's not like
I know, and I even activate your activator.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know what's up with that, but
we were facilitating a retreat recently, and I had to just ask her to politely put her activator away for a little while so that we could relax as a group for a minute.
So I just think it's hilarious that this was the word for this year.
I do too.
Yeah. And I don't know, Tara, how you get your words, and I'm going to ask you, audience wants to know what your word is, but it is a process for me of getting quiet and of spending some time in reflection and prayer. And for me as a coach, but also a person of faith, I know that I believe that there is someone who is in charge of the future. And I
Mm,
love being able to ask the Lord what his intention is for me this year. And relax for me does not mean shutting down and going and eating bonbons and sitting in hot tubs all the time, although
that
that
sounds great.
sounds lovely. But it does mean that even when I am busy doing things, that my whole posture is recognizing that the work is going to get done. And even from a faith perspective, for me, what I say is that it's already completed in a way that I can relax to know that the Lord will redirect me to the goodness of what I am supposed to be doing.
Yes.
So much of that I get in my head of what I think I should be doing. And so surrendering and relaxing to what I can do and what I've been created to do.
I love that the posture then is a putting away or a managing of anxiety as well around the getting things done and the pace
Yeah.
and the timeline. And so often our timelines are made up by us. Like both of us are really good at superimposing our own timelines on things.
And the story I tell myself about what other people are thinking me and what they're expecting of me, 99.999% of the time is not true
Not even
because
close.
they're not created like I am. They don't see through my filter.
Right. So they're not sitting there thinking, I can't believe Pamela hasn't delivered on that. I asked her for it 5 minutes ago.
Right.
They probably have more realistic view of what that delivery would look like. So relaxing for you then is not just relaxing, although I am the friend who helps you relax.
You are not only the friend that helps me identify my strengths, but you are also the Enneagram 7 friend who is my fun friend. That Enneagram 7s, for those of you that don't know, they have a party waiting to happen. And really, all of my best friends are Enneagram 7s. And I am so,
Because
so,
they're the most
so grateful. You are. And for those of you that don't know that Enneagram, it's another tool that helps us to identify our motivations behind things. And so we encourage you to go out and learn about that. We won't discuss that in this podcast, but it has been another helpful tool for us to kind of see ourselves. And never does one thing ever shine a mirror totally on who you
Mm,
are, but it's helpful. Again, we started out with language. It's helpful to have some language.
absolutely. I'll just say one more thing about the Enneagram.
That's
Yeah.
great. So, okay, I am turning the conversation
Okay.
on you. Enough about me.
All right.
Tara,
Yeah.
what is your word for the year?
I struggle with just having one almost ever. I just listened to a really great book on audio called The Relentless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And I love his description of Sabbath in the book. So he talked about Sabbath as resting, relaxing, but also delighting and really disconnecting from the pressures of the world. And so I love the concept of Sabbath. So that is one of my words. I'll talk about the other one too, because
Yeah, yeah, that's all right. We will give you 2 words because you are my friend. You can have 2.
so my other word is student. I think when you start a business, and hopefully we have listeners who have businesses and who've started businesses, we are so busy making sure everything is running and putting a vision into play that we don't often take time to learn something new. We're always learning something new in some ways, but it's not necessarily the posture that we have.
Yeah.
It's because we've got to figure out how to do taxes, or we have to figure out how to we have to figure these things out because we're business owners. But I think partly because of the work that we do with leadership development and coaching and really highly valuing growth mindset, I recognized in myself this last year that I struggle sometimes when I'm learning something new. And because I do judge myself and I do think I should be better, know better, be farther along. Whereas students, truly a posture of a student is expecting to not be good,
Yeah.
expecting for it to be challenging and hard. And so one of the things I'm doing this here at the beginning of the year is I took up watercolor.
Oh.
because I know, because it's intimidating. I like to paint, but watercolor is a whole other animal. And so I did it intentionally to be not good at something and to practice being a student.
And being a student as well, you can expect some tests.
Shoot. I hadn't thought about that, Pamela.
And they're not meant, again, to put a label on us, but they're meant to show us that we still have room to grow.
Absolutely. The testing, you're right, the testing is part of it. And as you said that, had a number of things flashing through my mind about what some tests might be around things I'm learning. There's a lot right now that we're doing with Align that are new.
Yes.
And there's a lot of tests coming up. My hope is just that as a student, taking the posture of student, is that we're approaching those with grace for ourselves and for others as we all learn through that growing process. And growing is painful. There is no growth without pain. It is necessary. If you think about anything in nature, from a seed pod breaking open to giving birth.
Yeah. To experiencing seasons of winter.
Sure.
Where it feels like a lot of the work is, dormant. It's underground. It's nothing that is seen, but it's absolutely necessary. And I want to speak because I don't know that a lot of our audience understands the word Sabbath and understands what you mean even by rest in that, Tara, and how important it is for growth.
Yeah. Sabbath is obviously a faith term and really speaks from a faith perspective, command for those of us who have faith to pause and rest and delight in God's bounty.
Yeah, it's really a rhythm of life.
Yeah, it's a practice. So I'm still exploring what it means for me.
Yeah.
But in general, as a concept, it's that one day a week or for a set time on a regular basis, you would disconnect and not have necessarily an agenda. So it's not, I'm going to take the day and get housework done, but there would be a set time for you to go for a walk or connect as a family or watercolor or whatever those things would be where we're not distracting ourselves.
Yeah, and it's so healthy as a person who works in that realm, a lot with people who are in these different rhythms. I like to equate it to physical exercise. Not that this is my area of expertise at all, but I do know that when you work a muscle group on a certain day, it's really important that you rest that muscle group and work something else the next day.
Like leg day.
Yep, leg day, arm day, whatever that is, just that it gives those muscles, because they've been broken down, a chance to rest so that they can grow stronger. And we need that rhythm in being able to actually get our creativity back and our energy. Neuroscience proves it. But the more time that we can spend in beauty, so not distracting ourselves, but either in the beauty of creating something, the beauty of a deep conversation, the beauty of discovering something through a book or being out in nature, that the neural pathways in our brain just fire at a greater level. And so you actually come back into your week, if it's a regular work week, more creative and ready to engage in a way that you wouldn't have if you didn't take that time, that Sabbath, that rest, to focus on something different so that you can return with a greater sense of awakening to what you're doing the rest of your week.
Well, as you were talking, it occurred to me that Sabbath and student for me are directly tied, because without that rest and reset, that time to reset and really be grounded, I don't have the energy and bandwidth to show up as a student, because in the raw side of my strengths, I am impatient. You're laughing. Like, no, not you.
I love you, friend. I love when we can self-diagnose.
So I lead with strategic activator. So I am constantly thinking about what's next. There is never a time I'm not thinking. My husband and I went to buy a washer and dryer this weekend, and we were picking out the color of the washer and dryer, and the salesperson helping us asked what the color of our current one is. And I had to look at Dale perplexed. I don't know what color it is. I do laundry every day. So that is not the issue. The issue is that I'm not paying attention. I'm not present. when I'm doing the laundry. I have no idea what color our washer and dryer is.
That's awesome.
I don't know. There are people listening who are going, how do you not know? Because my brain was not in the room with me when I was doing the laundry. My brain was somewhere else. So when Pamela said that Enneagram 7s are like a party, in some ways it's not like just fun. It's that the thoughts are always jumping like a squirrel.
Okay, now I am laughing.
So I say that to say that without that intentional grounding, my strategic and activator being 1 and 2 end up being very anxiety producing, not just for me, but for others, of constantly thinking and with a great sense of urgency, what's next and what if and what do we have to do? And so that practice of Sabbath or intentional rest is critical for me to have enough energy to show up as a student. Because being a student for me means that I don't have to show up right. I don't have to be impatient for the timeline, that I can take feedback or make a mistake without instantly trying to fix it. The other day, we are in the process of learning a lot of new things. We have a new software, a new learning management system that is awesome, by the way, for development. And we launched a program and I had made a mistake, but I didn't catch it. The client caught it and sent me a question and I wasn't at home. And I probably drove twice the speed limit to get home so I could fix it, because every second that went by, that mistake was live, felt like I was dying. That is not a student. That is not the posture of a student. That is a posture of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And the story I tell myself in those moments are not helpful. So without the rest, I can't show up as my best. And then a whole slew of other things there. You end up projecting that anxiety onto everyone else who's trying to work with you as well.
And family suffers because they are all with us. And so then shame starts to take over into that place. So I love that you've clarified those words for us here, especially about student and Sabbath. One other thing that I do know about your strength, because you have shared with me, is that you are very much in the futuristic realm.
Oh, yeah.
And so that plays also into this understanding why Sabbath would be your word, because it grounds you to be present and not always be projecting into the future or forward thinking and not being with us here. And I think part of what I've identified for myself, and especially with the clients that I work with that are experiencing trauma or have experienced that or in high anxiety, one of the things that they lose is honestly their ability to savor and really taste something and experience gratitude. And so this sounds like the most simple thing, but slowing down while you eat and noticing how something tastes, like entering back into your senses so that you can stay present, is a way to bring yourself out of the kind of free fall of anxiety. Just simply noticing again and tasting and seeing that something is good is a great way to bring yourself back into your body, to experience the present, to enjoy the simple things, and those other things that could happen in the future you're catastrophizing about, but most likely will not, will fade away because your senses are tasting something amazing. You're seeing something beautiful. You're experiencing the beautiful fragrance of your child sitting on your lap and the smell of either their fresh washed or their not fresh washed hair or body, but you're with them. And so that brings you back into the present.
It's why I said earlier, it's one of the reasons I so appreciate our friendship is that you are a grounding presence in my life and help me to be more present in the day-to-day. And yes, I have strategic ideation and futuristic in my top 10. So like I've said before, it's a squirrel at a party. If that party were about fun ideas and new possibilities. And so, yeah, trying to have practices that intentionally ground me. For leaders, that probably sounds, to some people, that might sound scary.
Or a little too woo.
Oh, a little too woo-woo. not outcome driven. And it's not, because creativity and productivity are directly linked. And if I am not able to show up in a way that is healthily creative, I am less productive over time.
And you experience less joy. And joy also leads to greater creativity
Yes.
and greater satisfaction. We did another podcast on success. That's really the definition of being able to walk into anywhere already experiencing just the joy of the journey, which is about being a student and saying, I'm practicing today.
Yeah, I'm practicing today. And I think if you're a leader, there's pressure to have all the answers. I don't care what your role is. If you consider yourself to be a leader, I guarantee you've grappled with and wrestled with the idea that I'm supposed to have the answers.
Yeah.
That's part of my role and my job, is to have the answers. And when we show up thinking that's our job, that we have to have the answers, we get really defensive when we don't, or when something happens we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Triggers all of our defensiveness, activates all of our stuff.
And so we have good friends come back into our life and can ask us powerful questions to help us discover what's underneath what might be coming out as a behavior. So in the counseling world, I call this the anger iceberg. So what you might see from people is that anger or defensiveness, which is the tip. But underneath are 100 other things that have to do with stories, real, or things that we may be making up in our head. We may be catastrophizing, all the things that we struggle with. But again, this is about what we began with, which is giving language to that discovery. And we want to invite you leaders to discover some new language or give language to some of the things that are happening in your life right now. And maybe you haven't chosen a word for the year. Maybe you have already, and you need to pause and reflect on that. How is that? How am I living intentionally into that? But I'm going to use the language of permission to take some time, perhaps Sabbath, to become a student, to look at yourself, or maybe invite another really good, trusted friend, maybe your spouse or a coworker, into that journey with you to help to give you some language so that you can ground yourself and grow this year as a leader.
And if you don't have someone, if you're listening and you don't feel you have someone, sometimes we need to seek out people. And so that can be paying a coach to help us. But it can also mean that maybe you want to invest in those kinds of relationships this year. Maybe your intention this year is to develop more of the kinds of people who will be mutually investing in each other's growth. And so if you don't have that person in your life, that's what we wish for you and want for you and hope that you can find in the coming year.
Yeah. So your action step is the word permission. Permission to take time to discover what a word or two is for the year, to set an intention about what you value and how you're going to live into the language of what will help you to grow, what will help you to be more grounded, what might be getting in the way, because other people know what is getting in your way, most likely. And it's going to help you as you learn new things, as you give yourself grace and permission to practice becoming a better leader.
Come on.